Hello everybody, this is JD Legree again, making this video, another gaming video. Today I'm going to be talking about the unfortunate but not surprising cancellation of NBA Live 13. Also going to tie in 2K basketball and sport video games as a whole. But first, NBA Live 13. Those of you who have not been following NBA Live or follow sport games, allow me to give you some background. NBA Live first came out in 1995. NBA 95. It had been running continuously through NBA Live 10, so that means from 94 through 2009. For 15 years, there had been an NBA Live basketball game. Now, in that time frame, Live went from well respected to a decline, and then a resurgence. The respect was from the early days of 95, and I think the decline began. I know for me, after the Live 06 version. I had purchased the Live 2000, which was awesome, Live 2002, which I liked, and Live 04, which I liked. But when I bought the 06 version, I stopped playing it because of the unrealism, because I like to do 12-minute quarters in my franchise mode, and I was getting scores of 150 to 143. I'm like, basketball doesn't score like that. And that was also the edition where he had the player weapons, so you had Tracy McGrady basically making every shot because he was a outside scorer and a three-point specialist and a high flyer. And so that back then you hit the L1 and the square, triangle, circle, X for your different type of release shots, and they'll always go in. So that's when I stopped playing it. Then I bought the Live 10 version, and the reason why I picked it up because I was done with Live, because none of the previous demos from 07 to 09 impressed me. But when I played 10, I was okay. Players are moving smoothly. The dribbling is alright. I'll pick it up. And it was a good game. It had its flaws, which I will detail in a second. But it was a step in the right direction. Then, EA started to 2K NBA Live, meaning shooting with the right analog stick, having their own version of my player mode and other things. Now I played NBA, and they also changed the title to NBA Elite 11. Now I played the demo, and the single player part, the my player part, it was okay. I didn't have a problem with it. I liked it, but you could tell there was an issue when you did the team versus team mode, because the pace of the game was kind of off. Some of their shooting controls were very exploitable. Like, they had, for one example, to do a layup, you had to roll your analog stick up and to the left or up and to the right. Well, you could do that from beyond the three-point line, and it would go in. Like he would like Kobe Bryant could do a jump hook or a hook shot from the wing of the outside the three-point line, and it would go in. So that lets you know that he didn't really think about the type of changes they were introducing to the game, and they weren't needed, because the things that Live 10 needed to be worked on were gameplay related, meaning animations, broken alley-oop system, and tweaking the shooting. Other than that, it was fine. There was, the online connectivity was good. The player responsiveness was good. The fluidity of the player's movement was good. So they adjusted things that didn't need adjusting. So the demo, again, I didn't like the team versus team, and then the infamous Jesus Bynum glitch occurred. Now, if you don't know what the Jesus Bynum glitch is, you can do the search bar. I wish I was a little bit more savvy with the video recording where I could put the clip on here, but that takes too much work. And so unless I take a class to do video editing or something, I'm not gonna do it. But this guy recorded himself playing the demo. He was playing with the Lakers, and during gameplay, like about halfway through the first quarter, Bynum decides to stand at half court line like this. And at first he didn't notice it because the pace of the game was taking his his attention. But then he got a steal and tried to do a fast break and pass it to him. And because one foot was on one side of the court and the foot was on the other side of the court, it turned into a backcourt violation. And what happened was the ball, instead of going to his Jesus on the cross hands, it got passed to his feet, which led to the backcourt violation. And then that's when he noticed this dude was just standing there, not moving. Now mind you, when the demo came out, it came out at the same time as the NBA 2K11 demo came out. And if you know anything about games, especially nowadays, when they released the demo, the game was pretty much done. The game is pretty much done when they released the demo. Now EA claimed that there was no that their decision to cancel NBA Elite 11 was not influenced by the Jesus Bynum glitch. But listen, that video had like over 500,000 views. EA sees those kind of numbers, so they ended up canceling it. Then next year, which was last year, they said they early last year, like around February, they said they were going to do an NBA Elite 12. And so this year they said, okay, we're back. We're going to go back to NBA Live title 13, and we're gonna come out this year. Now, at the time, all of us gamers are thinking, okay, they took 2 years off. That means they would have had 2 years of making this fucking game, so maybe it'll actually be decent. It may not put a huge dent into the stranglehold that 2K has on video game basketball, but it's a start. Apparently, then we find out that they're like, no, we decided to stay with our usual 1-year production. And so first that raised some eyebrows, like, you haven't released a game for NBA since 2009, because you canceled Elite 11, which would have come out in 2010. You decided to update the rosters for the NBA Live 10 to show the the 2010-2011 upcoming rosters. And that was a good idea, and it was a free update. So one of the very rare good things EA Sports has done to gamers, they did a free roster update. No sarcastic clap. That was actually a good thing to do. But when they said they weren't going to release a 12, they should have been developing from that time. Because as I just said earlier, they said that they weren't going to release 12 early in 2011. So they could have started from that time, from early 2011 all the way through now, making NBA Live 13. But no, they didn't do that. Then, so not only did we find out that they said they was going to stick with the original production of 1 year development, they had even less than 1 year, because they began making the game around the All-Star break of this year. So you're like, huh? Well, we know that sport games back in the day, in the previous iteration, and even the PS1 era, you could get away with that because of the technical limitations. So you didn't have as much that you needed to get right in the game. But now that you're concerned with HD graphics, player modules, realistic body movement, and all kind of nuances, you need at least a full year. And considering how awful your NBA Elite 11 was, you needed more than a year to make your game, so that way it was passable. So they started talking, releasing screenshots and whatnot, but there was very little advertising, very little marketing of the game. And it was the same way with NBA Elite 11, which is why people was worried about that one and this one, because if you know anything about gaming or even EA Sports, if they feel like a game is going to sell, you're going to see it. You're going to see it on IGN, you're going to see it on GameSpot, you're going to see it on TV or hear about it on radio. You're going to see GameStop commercials about it. None of that happened. Alright. And so, again, eyebrows were raised because they weren't releasing any advertising about it. And then came a gameplay demo release. Now, EA said that this was from an early build of the game, and I'm about to tear that down in just a second, but because that's going to segue into talking about video game, sport video games on a whole. But and they also took it down. They also took down the video, but you can find it on Kotaku. That's Kotaku. You can find it there, and you may be able to find it on here. So that that'll let you know something. That since EA took it down, that says all you need to know. But I looked at the gameplay release, and here's the worst part about it. Not only did it look like it was a PS2 era with graphics and player movement and jump shots and whatnot, the reason why it got panned the way it did was that most demos for basketball games, you can only pick either the most recent NBA Finals participants or the All-Star team. This demo, this guy was playing on his Xbox. The menu, everything, like when you got past the opening loading screen, the entire menu was available. Nothing was grayed out. Every team was available to pick. Every difficulty was available to pick. So it looked as if that the game was finished as far as being able to do everything. And so EA first said that they were going to release the game as an online only for about $20. Then that's where we're like, you know what, this is it's heading toward cancellation, because no powerhouse company is going to release a very high profile franchise game strictly online and for a discounted price. No. And then a couple days ago they canceled it. So I know what you're wondering. You're wondering why am I up in arms about this shit? Why do I care? Well, I'll explain why. EA Sports burning of their own franchise is an example of everything that's wrong with it. I'll just keep it as sports video game. There are plenty of other issues in gaming nowadays, but I'm going to keep it towards sports gaming right now. Let's go back to the early build excuse that he said to justify the poor quality of that demo gameplay. Now, we've seen early gameplay of all types of non-sport games. God of War, Metal Gear Solid, Uncharted, Heavy Rain, Grand Theft Auto 5 and 4, the Assassin's Creeds, LA Noire, Red Dead Redemption, Ghostbusters video game, which is actually a pretty good one. I thought it was gonna suck. The one, I know that there's a newer one, but the one that came out like around 08 or 09, that one was pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised that it was good. The Last of Us, you know, again, it hasn't come out yet, but they showed gameplay demo of it. The Sly Cooper 4 looks great. So there's all types of games out there that show gameplay in its early build, and none of those games that I just mentioned look anywhere near as bad as NBA Live 13's did. So that begs the question: how is it that games that have more on the screen, which means it takes more processing power, than games that are more realistic because of their storyline and their graphical necessities? How is it that games, perfect example, Assassin's Creed 3, all the gameplay footage of it from when he first started showing it looked awesome. Nothing looked grainy, nothing looked like PS2 era, nothing looked like it was glitch filled, nothing looked bad about it at all. And Assassin's Creed 3 is going to have thousands and thousands of soldiers on the field at the same time, basically pushing the PS3 to its limits. And none of its gameplay footage that's been released so far looks bad. Every time it's been released, you see comments saying this looks like it's going to be Game of the Year. It's almost a sense. It's almost like don't even bother having the Video Game Awards, just automatically say AC3 Game of the Year. So why is it that those type of games can look great in its early build, but these fucking sport video games can be so trashy? Why do we allow the sport video games to have such persistent and consistent and fixable flaws in them? Now this isn't every sport game, because EA's NCAA football game is great. I already lamented Madden, but NCAA this generation has been awesome. Graphically, gameplay wise, it has very few of the errors that Madden does. So that makes you wonder, how is it that they can make such a superior college football game, but then they can't make an excellent pro football game? Now, these are the things I'm talking about why I question why we allow these sport game makers to have such notable issues year in and year out. Let's start with the oldest known issue and error ever since sport video games have been made. Now this may seem like a sticking point, or like I'm nitpicking. But when you think of how we are, where we are technologically speaking, this should not happen. What am I referring to? The infamous going through something. So meaning the ball going through a person's torso, a ball going through a person's head, a person's hand going through an arm to block a ball, which actually happened to while I was playing NBA 2K12 yesterday. I was trying to get an assist, which, by the way, in this game it seems like 6 assists is the most they're gonna let my point guard dude get in the game. But I passed it to the center. The dude went up to lay it up. The fucking defender's hand went through the center's forearm and blocked the shot. Now, then there was this time where I went to go for a steal, and I'm D'ing up Tony Parker. He catches the ball, brings it through my face, neck, and chest while he's doing his swim move. Now, in real life, that would have been something like that. Or he would have lost control of it when he tried to bring it through my head. My head would have obstructed the ball, and he would have lost control of the ball and would have been a steal. But see, that's the kind of thing that was in the PS1 era of sport video games. So you mean to tell me that we're almost in another generation of consoles? I forget which one we're in. I think we're in the 8th generation of consoles. So we're almost into the generation 9, because the Wii U is coming out, I think, this year, and it's not for certain that the 720 and the PS4 is coming out next year. I think those are coming out in 2014. I definitely believe that the 720 is coming out in 2014, because I've been reading things that they feel that they rushed the 360, which is why they had all those that high ass failure rate that they did. Because they released that only about 5 years after the original Xbox came out. But anyway, so we're about to enter a next gen of consoles, and they still can't figure out a way to prevent solid objects going through other solid objects. Okay, so that's one thing that still persists in sport video games. Here's another thing that persists in sports video games: the tendency for the computer to go into you ain't doing shit mode. I don't think I need to explain that. I think that's self-explanatory. You can't do shit mode, and it don't matter what sport it is. Everything's going wrong, especially when you're playing against a computer. That's even worse. But I think the most, when you're playing against a computer and you have that happen, it's frustrating, but you kind of expect it because it's the computer. Sometimes it's going to decide you're not going to beat me today. But it's most frustrating when you're playing another human and you get that done to you, because there's a difference between that person actually shutting you down. It can happen. Some people are that good, but then you can tell when the computer is influencing whether or not you're going to be able to compete in the game, where you can't make an open jump shot. Your dudes won't go for a block even though you're telling them to jump to do so. Your receivers will not catch a pass. Your offensive line refuses to block. Your quarterback's accuracy is just all over the place. Your pitcher can't find the strike zone. Every time you hit the ball, it's a grounder. Like, come on. Third thing that always happens, even to this day, the dumbass AI of your teammates. Now this is most problematic in 2K. I'll give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. On my 2K12, my player, I'm in my 3rd season. Okay. I'm a creative point guard. This year, in this season, they drafted a point guard with their first pick, and he looked to be a first #1 pick from when I look at the player card. Now, first thing wrong with that is I'm a point guard. Drew Holiday is still on the team. Excuse me. So you already have 2 point guards on the team. Why would you draft another one? Especially that high. Starting lineup was me, Evan Turner, a chip shooter, created dude, Larry Price, he got drafted. You traded for Josh Smith and Maurice Space. Not a very strong starting five at all, but serviceable, especially with how I play. Evan Turner gets hurt, so that forces Drew Holiday to start at point guard and me to be at shooting guard. And alright, my guy's 6'5", so okay, and he plays, he can score like a 2, so I'm like, okay. Evan Turner gets back healthy, although the computer decides to keep me at 2 guard. And I'm like, if I wanted to be a 2 guard full time, I would have created a 2 guard full time. So that's yet another complaint about 2K individually. Its logic is flawed. But Drew Holiday gets hurt, and a backup, Thaddeus Young, gets hurt. So I'll go back to my point guard position. Now, to bring it back to why I said the AI of the teammates is bad, and teammate AI has been bad in sport video games for years. That backup point guard I mentioned, every time he gets into the game, he takes the most jackass shots you can imagine. We're talking trying to lay the ball up with 3 guys around him. Like after he killed his dribble trying to up and under, he always misses it or gets it blocked. He dribbles and he doesn't even follow the play art when he's the point guard and I'm the 2 guard. He doesn't even follow the play art. He just dribble, penetrates, dribble back out, and just shoots the ball and misses it. And that's even this case when regular players, because remember, that's a created dude. It's like that when I'm not playing. It's basically like that whenever I'm not playing the point guard, to make a long story short. Whenever I'm not playing the point guard, there's very little ball movement, man movement, very little running of an offense. And it was like that in 2K11. Okay. I see bad teammate AI in Madden. For example, you look at a replay and your opposing quarterback throws a ball that was in the vicinity of a linebacker or a cornerback, and they could have picked it, but instead they're standing still going like this, watching it go right by them. Now you're like, in real life, they would have made it an effort to at least deflect the ball. They would have made an effort to deflect the ball. And yet, that type of stuff persists. So it seems like these sport game makers can't program intelligence into the game. Now, 2K is vowing that with this year's edition, that they vastly improved the My Player teammate AI. But you know, to go into the nuances, the every single nuance of bad, you know, AI, even like when you're controlling a person and you want to do a specific type of pass, when they do it in a way where it gets intercepted, whereas they could have did a bounce pass or do it at a certain trajectory to avoid the guy, and they still don't do it. You know, things like that. It would take way longer than it would take a long video than I want to do to go into that kind of detail. So, to sum that up, about the original reason why I questioned why do we allow sport video games to have year in year out flaws. Actually, no, I'm gonna keep going about it. There's some other things I want to point out, like with 2K. Now, for all the hyperbole and pomp 2K gets, there are several things that still go on in this series that people have been complaining about for 3, 4, 5 iterations now. Online lag. Now, for me, I haven't experienced online lag like that because everybody I played so far online in 2K11 and 12 lives in my city. I'm in Rochester, New York. So, and we're also wired. You know, we go with the wired connection. I used to be wireless, and it was okay, but you can tell it isn't much improved when you're wired. So I haven't had any issues with that. But the fact that people still keep complaining about that, especially when it first releases, you know, and they've been complaining about it, it's like, hey, 2K tried to justify it by saying it's very hard updating their servers, so we just try to maintain it and fix it as we go along. Well, apparently you're not doing a good job if people are still complaining about the fucking lag when they go online. So that's one thing that still carries over. Here's another thing that still carries over from the last year that I know of personally. In the teammate and the My Player mode, the team stats are fucked up. Like, for example, whenever you're far enough into the season in the My Player mode, for them to do last 10 days or last 30 days or for the entire season up to the point that you're playing, and even when you go into the team stats in the league leaders type of thing, like when you're not playing the game but you're in your My Player mode and you're going through the settings and and you're looking up stuff, like you're looking up your player and you're looking up your record and division and your placing in the standings, in the playoff standings, they'll have it so that the second team, like let's say the steals category, the second team will have like 8.9 steals a game. They'll show my team averaging 29.1 steals a game. Now I don't know about you, but I don't ever remember a team averaging 29 steals a game. That would mean that your opponent basically doesn't score at all if you're averaging damn near 30 steals a game. The shooting percentage as well. Well, actually, no, not the shooting percentage. What else is it? There are other stats that are that out of whack. Oh yeah, 3-point percentage. Yeah. When you go to the full stat, it'll show not .359. It'll say 35 point something something. And again, there are other stats that are fucked up. I just don't remember right now. But live never had those issues when I played, you know, the franchise mode, and I looked up team stats. Nothing was so outrageously out in front or behind compared to the other teams. You know. So, and you compare that with other games where something was a problem and it got fixed. Like, for example, the first Assassin's Creed was criticized for being repetitive. Not boring, but just repetitive. Now, I personally didn't mind it. You know, I didn't mind having to do the investigations over and over again. It was fun. I mean, I got to do more sword fighting and stabbing people. I was all for it. But you jump to AC2, guess what? The investigations were done differently. You know, there was more action in AC2. So they heard a gripe and they addressed it to the point where AC2 was a damn near game of the year. Had Uncharted 2 not come out the same year, it probably would have got game of the year. So why is it that a game that doesn't come out every year? Well, Assassin's Creed does come out every year now, but the official sequel 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, even though there's Brotherhood and Revelations in between, 2 and 3, there's a 3-year development for that one, for AC3. So why is it that the ones that don't come out every year can do it, but the ones that come out every year, you can't do it? You can't figure that shit out. You can't figure out how to prevent a person's hand going through a person's head. Like, what the fuck? That's basic physics. You mean to tell me that computer programming hasn't progressed enough to be able to know when something should contact something? You mean to tell me that you can't program the game to know, to have your port guard know that they can't just dribble the ball around and then jack up the worst kind of shot possible? You mean to tell me you can't program the game so that where a person whose 3-point rating is 35 isn't jacking 6 3-point shots a game, especially if you go on a higher difficulty? But now to bring it back to earlier, why did EA Sports allow that gameplay footage to be released and then try to justify it by saying it's an early build? I just listed almost a dozen games that released early footage of their builds, and none of them look anywhere near as bad. The whole point of releasing early footage is to show how the game is looking up until that point. They try to justify that shit by saying it's an early build. Motherfucker, when they showed God of War 3 early, and the fact that a whole level was Gaia. A whole level was Gaia. Okay. A whole level was Gaia. And it ran smooth and it looked smooth. You got the fucking nerve to say that, well, this is an early build, that's why it looks as bad as it does. And then you end up canceling it. You're a fucking joke. EA Sports is a fucking joke. I mean, that's not new that EA Sports is a fucking joke, but that just solidifies it. That is a fucking joke. They have 3 years. They had 3 years to make a basketball game. They can't even make a basketball game worth releasing. that's not NBA Jam like. They can't even make a decent basketball game now. Like, what kind of fucking shit are we? Where are we fucking headed to where game makers can't even make a game? They can't even make a game now. And this is the most profitable game company in the world, and you can't even fucking release a game. You can't even make a game. You can't even make a game good enough for it to be like, what do I want to say? Like, I'm trying to think of the lowest standard you could that people would accept a game to be. They can't even make a game to where people would want to buy it digital only for $10. They can't even do that when it comes to NBA Live. They can't even do that. Boy. You know, all they had to do was to get back to the earlier, to what I said earlier about what they needed to fix from NBA Live 10, and it would have been a great game for NBA Live 11. There was one animation where if a guy was near you by the sideline, your dude would inexplicably start, try to sidestep and stay in bounds and lose control of the ball. There's another animation where if you had the ball and you're going toward the middle of the paint, like you're going across it, all of a sudden your dude will lose control of the ball, like get it stolen from him. There's another animation where if you're getting beat up, you basically get chest bumped out of bounds, even though you're trying to tell your guy to go back to the right or back to the left. He'll just keep getting animated out of bounds. And then the alley-oop system was terrible in NBA Live 10. I had to show footage of how bad the NBA Live 10's alley-oop system was. Like, even though I traded it in, like I would have to record gameplay of me trying to do it for you to understand how bad it was. And then the shooting was very, very it was unreliable. Or I should say, it was very unreliable. The timing of a person's shot would vary. You miss wide open shots all the time. I would shoot consistently 40% and lower as a team. And it didn't have a true practice mode. Outside of that gym where there's five players on one side and 5 players on the other side, outside of that there was no true practice mode. So if they had fixed those, because everything else about the game was solid. The graphics were solid, player movement was solid, there was no online lag, the crowd noise was great. I love the fact that they introduced a intensity modifier. You have regular season intensity, playoff atmosphere intensity, and then NBA Finals intensity. Playing a game on NBA Finals intensity is, especially when you got an HD TV with decent sound, that shit is awesome. That shit is awesome. And you had Steve Kerr and Marv Albert commentating. That was a good one. So again, overall, and a lot of people felt that overall NBA Live 10 was a good game. Just needed to work on the bullshit animations, work on the shooting, and you were good. People were not even clamoring for an individual mode for NBA Live. They didn't even need that. But instead, they ran their own franchise into the ground. Now they're talking about we're focusing on next year. Well, you know what, motherfucker? Maybe nobody wants you to release an NBA game anymore. And listen, I am no way, shape, or form a 2K stan. because 2K has plenty of fucking issues. I have some videos of said bullshit in my iPhone, and unfortunately, the videos are too long to upload strictly from the phone, so I had to connect it to the computer, save the video to the computer, and then upload from the computer to do that, to put them on here. But even with all the issues 2K has, at least they're able to make a fucking game that can be released. Even though, from what I've seen on the forums, there is starting to be a growing ambivalence toward 2K, the basketball game, because of the fact that last year they touted certain things being in the game and then took them out at the last minute, and without saying they were going to take them out. And also issues, especially in the My Player mode, that were pointed out last year's edition still being in this one, you know. So again, the 2K is far from a perfect series. It's far from a perfect basketball game. It's far from a perfect basketball game. But at least but even I will say this, you could tell that there was a difference effort made from 11 to 12. Now, in some areas it was less of an effort. It was a decrease in quality, but they made effort. You could tell, and I can tell from the previews of the My Player for 2K13 that they're finally making it a true My Player mode, meaning that if your guy is leading the league in scoring, the commentators will actually say your player's name is leading the league in scoring. You know, they may actually do, like when the opening montage of a game in My Player, where they highlight, you know, best player on the team for each team. They may actually have it so that way, if your guy is the best player on the team, they'll show you, you know, doing the stuff in the montage, and with your name highlighted and stuff. So it's like finally fucking figured out that you need to make your guy a little bit more of a centerpiece all around. But again, see, they're working on that. EA Sports can't even make a game worth releasing. Jesus Christ. What the fuck are we, what fucking times are we in now, video game wise? We're a fucking big time company. We're not talking about some indie developer or a mid-major developer. We're talking about the most profitable, at least sports video game making. And even though EA makes other games, so they're not just sports, but I think overall they just might be the most profitable game developer and publisher there is out there. And they can't even make a good basketball game. They can't even get it past the demo stage. How sad is that? If you can't even get it past the free demo that you can download on your system, they can't even get it past that mark. That's a goddamn shame. They ran their own franchise. I mean, it's one thing if you acquire somebody else's intellectual property and you run their shit into the ground. That's one thing. That's still bad. But see, as you weren't the original creators, you're coming from a different point of view. So you can somewhat understand if you run somebody else's shit into the ground. But how in the hell do you take a franchise of your own creation, build it up to where it's highly respected, let it decline, make an edition that put everybody saying, alright, EA Sports is gonna come back trial, and then run it right back into the ground, and then got the nerve to say, well, you know, we're gonna focus on next year's, like the same way you did with NBA Elite 11, but you said you weren't gonna release a 12, and then by the time you say you were gonna do 13, you already had less than your usual 1 year development. And they had the nerve to act cocky when they were voted the worst, the worst company in the world, saying, well, we're just going to keep making games that give us $200 billion in revenue. It ain't because they're fucking good, not across the board. That's for damn sure. Well, I see this is yet another long video. I still have more to say. So I'm gonna make a separate video. But yeah, that's how I feel about 2K. Actually, I basically said everything I needed to say about 2K. Again, I'll still do fuckery uploads where the fuckery I see in 2K uploaded here. But I basically said everything I need to say about 2K. But that's how I feel about the cancellation of Live. And these bastards once again ruined. And I'm almost done here, but I have to say this. The worst part about this is not just the fact that they can't even make a game worth releasing. It's the fact that this leads to the possibility that 2K could become Madden, meaning that it starts declining. You know, they keep touting new features and new improvements, and some areas get improved and other areas get left alone or taken out or decrease in quality. You know, it could end up being that, because this is the third year in a row now that an NBA Live 2K basketball game will be released without a competitor. And because people like basketball, they'll get it, but not because they're stands. They like playing their video game basketball. That's why they're buying it. It's not because it sure is not, you know, worth the greatest game ever made. Like 2K11 was called the greatest sports game ever made. No, it was not. Not with the errors that were in that game. And then last year, when you had rookies with black arms, think about that. They let a game get released where you had white boys, and I'm not trying to be racist. That's how I refer to white guys. I refer to white guys as white boys. So I'm not trying to be an asshole. That's just how I refer to them. Just like if somebody would refer to me as a black guy, I wouldn't be offended because I am a guy and I'm black. Well, I'm actually brown, but you know, I wouldn't be offended by that. So I don't want to hear no, you know, griping about that. But they have white boys with black arms. They released a game. It was sold at full price, $60+ with that in it, and you had to download a patch that didn't come immediately. You had to download a patch. Actually no, that's not even how they fixed it. At first, other people, you know, created something. Other people created a fix where you can go into the game and then download it. So it took the public fixing it before fucking 2K could do a patch to get rid of the black arms. Think about what. Just think about that for a moment. They let a game get released where fucking skin tones did, the skin tones of people's arms didn't match the rest of their body. Even to this day, right fucking now, if I were to put in 2K12, Rick Allen's hands are still black to this fucking day. Rick Allen is a white man. His hands are not black. He doesn't have no skin condition. He doesn't have no skin cancer. He doesn't have no genetic disease or nothing that would make his fucking hands look. I mean, they're not just black. They're tar black. The rest of his body is white, but his hands are tar black. Now you may say, well, that's just a cosmetic thing. But see, that speaks to the fact, that speaks to a lack of attention to detail. And that's just with, you know, if they can do that with something as obvious as a person's skin color, then what lack of attention to detail did they put toward other things? I.e., there was something they had to patch. Oh, here's, for example, the inability to boot the game up for the second year in a row around February. See, at first, with the 2K, I thought my fucking system was fucked up because my my system's been going through a couple things since in the last 2 years. It's okay right now, but it had gone through some repairs. So I thought my system was fucking up. But it turned out that every other game in my could turn on in my system just fine. Just not that one. And then, so that's why I had to stop playing 2K11, because I couldn't turn the fucking shit back on again. Not on my controller, not on my console. Then 2K12 come out, and around the same time in February, people can't boot the game up. It'll get frozen at the loading screen, around loading settings or loading rosters. Comes to find out, you have to fucking delete the game data, not your saves, like your season save or your my player save. You had to delete the actual system information, the game off your hard drive. So you still keep your saved content, but you had to delete. Is where if a game gets patched or updated, there's game save information and game data information on the PS3. You have to delete the game data information and then re-download it just to be able to get through it. So they had to patch that. So already, and I already mentioned the continuing lag issues for that users say they keep dealing with. They've been dealing with for several years now. So already we got signs that these motherfuckers are releasing games with problems, or being sold, known in the shit, and they had to patch it later. That's the criticism of Madden. So already you could argue that they're starting on that slippery slope already. So that's why it's a shame that Live isn't being released, because it gives the opportunity for 2K to turn into EA Sports and release half-ass games at full price, patch it every now and then, and on to the next edition. This has got to stop. Games didn't used to be like this. Games used to be released bug-free, glitch-free at release date. No need for a fucking iPad for an update and for a patch. Because before games were connected to the internet, they had to do it that way. Because if you released a broken piece of shit, it was a broken piece of shit. You would have had to re-release it, and it would cost more money to re-release it, so they had to get it done right the first time. So I lament definitely where sports video games are going. There are other things about gaming that make people wonder what the fuck is going on, but that's definitely an issue. Well, that's my thoughts on NBA Live and 2K. I said I was going to do a video on Fight Night, and I will. That'll be the next video I'll do. It will be more excoriating of EA Sports, so you EA bashers will get your heart's content with that. And I don't mean to be a basher, it's just that I don't like bullshit. EA does a lot of bullshit. They do some things good, but when it comes to the sport games, they're at best. So tell me what you think down in the comment box, or hit me up with a video response. I want your take on the cancellation of Live. This is JD Legrees signing out from the 585. Talk to you later.